always having technical difficulties here. Okay, cool. I think we're starting finally yet again. Hi guys, welcome back. Hello. I usually give this thing just a couple seconds to connect to the intranet so we can speak. I guess we can begin speaking.
I suppose we can.
We'll begin speaking. Hello friends, my name is Christopher.
I'm Angela.
We're Dinosaur Omelet. If you guys haven't been here before, welcome. This is a teaching channel. Lots of good information. We have a bunch of educational videos. If you check out our background voice. Ugh. Yeah, we have a lot of educational videos. If you check our previous lives, they're more long format, and there's a shorter videos in the regular section, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So welcome here. Yeah, so tell them a little bit about us, dear wife.
So we are big fans of learning skills, self-sufficiency, learning how to raise food, different types of foods. And we encourage people toward jumbo quail because they're wonderful producers in nice big eggs for quail and meat if you want to do a meat program.
Right now, everybody's going crazy for egg chickens, trying to get egg chickens. So, which makes sense because everybody's paying a fortune for eggs. The chickens will take, what, 5 or 6 months before they start laying? If you get chickens as chicks, take about 5 or 6 months. With quail, I mean, I like them a lot. Even if we weren't selling the little dudes, they're really great because they'll start laying once they're about, I guess, 8 weeks old, 10 weeks old. They start laying around 8 weeks old after they hatch. And they lay a ton of eggs. And there's a ton of information about the quail, but we're not discussing that tonight. I just wanted to let them know.
Yeah, that's
about us.
That
about
we
us.
do. Yeah, and we also enjoy other homesteading type animals in a efficient and productive way that doesn't necessarily require a lot of space. And then of course vegetable gardens. And yeah, Christopher is a very good chef. We enjoy quality of life. So a big part of that is being aware of what we're eating and
yeah, guys, so what's important, like right now out in the United States and the general public, people are becoming much more educated and they realize the food supply really wasn't what they were told back in the 80s. Like they're beginning to understand like the food's kind of corrupted and they want to learn how to start taking care of themselves, and they're learning those self-sufficiency skills. Let me turn off my notices. Forgot to keep turning that off. Cool. Yeah, so people are starting to learn how to take care of themselves, and they're gaining interest in not just self-sufficiency, but optimal well-being. And I think with the self-sufficiency movement, the homestead movement, that's bringing about like optimal mental health because you're doing your hands-on. You're in the dirt. You remember everybody always says, put your hands in the dirt, go out in nature. Well, if you're raising your own animals, you're kind of forced to do that. And it's very therapeutic. And it kind of decouples you from the regular stressful Western culture that we kind of saturated ourselves in. And this is my personal feeling, but I think a lot of people agree. Like that whole fast Western culture, which is great, but after a while it accumulates and you kind of need to de-stress. Even if you're doing this as a hobby, it's very distressing and it's very rewarding. So, I encourage that.
Yeah, and you're out in the sunlight.
Yeah. And you're learning skills. And if you have kids, man, this is a great thing to share with the kids. They're going to be hands-on. They're going to feel the gratification of reward from putting in the effort and learning skills. Okay, so I always encourage that. That becomes an extension of self when I learn how to grow a carrot or a tomato. And the same for the kids. They're learning how to do something. They're going to feel quite gratified from producing something from their own labor and effort. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think that's how we are. What else? I keep getting the notifications on there. All right, cool. So tonight we're talking about, this is a repeat. Last week, what happened?
Yeah, our mic disconnected or something, so then we were not heard. There was no audio, apparently, and so we had to redo it.
Did the whole video without audio.
Yeah.
Which kind of lumpy. So we did a nice hour class silent. Maybe there's some lip readers because people watched that. But I erased it. So we're redoing it this week. It was actually a good video. So tonight we're talking about interpreting, understanding, and recognizing the behaviors of your chickens. This is important stuff. Why would you say this is important, wife? You work around chickens.
Because this knowing the behavior of your chickens will give you much insight on the health and well-being of the bird and how they're interacting with the flock mates, if everybody's getting along, if there's an issue, or if somebody's not feeling well, then you'll notice right away if you're familiar with their behavior. And then also, it is enjoyable to understand like body language to a degree where you know when they're happy and you know, it's just kind of getting to know them in a more personal level.
That is correct. So with your birds, we're going to talk about a whole bunch of these baseline behaviors, like their normal behaviors, which will be indicative of different conditions. And when you work with your animals, doesn't matter if it's any kind of animal, you learn their baseline behaviors. And when they're not engaged in that normal behavior, ooh, little red alarm goes up. Something's wrong with the chicken or the duck or the goose or the cow or whatever. Their behavior is different. And that's usually an indication something's wrong. They're stressed, their diet is insufficient, or maybe predators, or they're sick. So it's good to know their behaviors, and it's good to know what the behaviors mean, just for your own knowledge when you're looking out the window, seeing what the chickens are doing, and you can know them about. So that is what we'll discuss. If you guys are here live, if you wind up dropping in, you have a question. Sometimes these numbers don't actually pop up to tell me who's in here. Leave a comment or a hello to let me know you're there, and or a question really, because I like answering questions. We do a lot of studying. What else do I say? Oh, and if you're not here live,
Excuse me.
drop a question in. They pop up. It's the magic of the internet. All these comments show up later, and I see them. Okay, cool. So overview. I do these. I always like to write outline to keep us on track. So I'm going to do a little bit of talking. Angela's better at the chicken behaviors. And you did this last week.
Yeah, we'll do this together.
So why understanding the behavior is crucial for your successful management of your poultry. Kind of like I just mentioned, I suspect to recognize unusual behaviors is usually indicative of a problem. You know, if something's not normal, the chickens are going to be acting out of their normal baseline behaviors, usually sickness, stress, illness, predators, maybe there's a hawk up above. But we're going to talk about that. So that's important to recognize that, even for you guys who are little small hobby farms. You don't have to have a gigantic poultry interest to want to manage your chickens or understand their behavior. And I think in the giant poultry facilities, they're like, okay, alive, dead, alive, that one's not good, he's dead, get him. But at your house, like, the chickens are like pets. And we get to know them, and they have their own distinct behavior sets too, individuals, don't they?
Yeah, for sure.
So you got 13 chickens with 13 different distinct behaviors, but they all have general kinds of chicken behaviors that we shall discuss.
Right.
All right, I'm going to let Angela take over because I've been yapping already. Common chicken behaviors and their meaning. So feeding and foraging behaviors. So what are we looking at when we're seeing the normal feeding and foraging behaviors?
Yeah, so it's very instinctual to scratch the ground, peck the ground. What the chickens are doing is they're looking for food and, you know, little pebbles and stones.
Why are they doing this?
Because they're looking for food that's going to, you know, aid their health, but also because they like to eat. So they're going to be looking for
And it's their natural behavior.
It is their natural behavior so that they're going to scratch the ground, and then they're going to look right where they scratched for any kind of movement, and, you know, or any kind of goodies. This is very normal.
So their natural behavior out in the wild is they're going to be foraging around like the free-range chickens or their wild cousins out in the jungles. They're foraging around for bugs, insects, little mammals even, and even other little bird eggs and things like this. So they're foraging. Now, this isn't just food-seeking behavior. This is stimulating to them mentally, I guess, as you would say. It gives them stimulation to peck around and look at different colors and things. And
and it's so instinctive that it overrides, like, logic, I guess you could say. Because, for example, just basic... Anyway, so they could be... you could have a tray of food for them and put it on the ground, and then they'll start scratching. They won't just stand on the edge and peck and eat. And some of them will, but then they'll still scratch and they'll kick food everywhere because they're looking for other goodies. And it's just, it's just they're not thinking, oh, I'm spilling food or I'm casting food away. You know, they're still gonna be scratching and looking. That's just
It's very
so
instinctual.
Yeah.
It's instinctual.
Yeah, you'll see chicks even do this in the brooder, where they'll be standing on a pile of food and just kicking it everywhere, and then they'll look and they'll take a couple pecks and then they'll kick more food away. Look, and it's just like, it's all food. But it's just what they do.
In the animal kingdom, and you're going to see this with the chickens, they have something called nutritional wisdom, where the animals know instinctively what compounds they need to eat to satisfy mineral or nutrient deficiencies that they might have, or what they generally need. They are like, oh, I know that bug over there and that kind of grain here, that's going to provide the vitamins or minerals that I need for my healthy chicken body. I'm not saying all that in their head, obviously, but it's a very, very interesting property that a lot of animals have. It's like when you see a dog eating clay, I guess, or dirt.
Yeah, like
Where they're trying to get a nutrient, or of course the world famous salt lick. You see animals eating, cow and horse. Do horses get salt licks?
Yes.
So the horses get salt licks.
They have mineral blocks.
That's kind of easy for them to recognize, and they get used to it. But it's along the same idea. They know they need these things in their body, and chickens and other animals have nutritional wisdom, and they'll hunt and peck to get what they need. And on the converse, if they're deficient, they have an illness, they treat themselves medicinally, practically, through, what is it, zoopharmacology, or no, zoopharmacognosy. Zoa, animal, pharma, drugs, cognition, cognosy. So zoopharmacognosy, where the animals know what things to eat to treat illnesses where they're not feeling well. So they'll also seek out remedies. So very intriguing stuff. And if you watch their behaviors, you'll see them picking out individual things that they either need or they prefer.
Yeah, and sometimes we'll throw them, like as humans, we'll throw them some foods that are non-toxic or anything like that. But the chickens, they'll look at it and be like, no, I'm not gonna eat that. So they know what they want.
Yeah. And they get I guess picky. Like they have their picky thing. Like they like treats. Like they'll know what a treat is. Like, how humans like the Doritos, whatever kind of junk food we like. If you throw them carrots or Doritos, or humans eating the Doritos. Same with the chicken. If you throw them mealworms or something, or some other...
That's not really a bad, treat, but maybe...
No, I'm not saying that's a bad treat. I'm saying to them that's a treat, and they're going to pick that over some other bland food.
For sure.
I'm not going to eat the mealworms. Okay, anyway. All right, so that's foraging behavior. It sounded like a simple thing, just talking about feeding, but it's a little more complicated than we imagine when we just look at an animal eating. You're like, oh, they're eating. Oh, but not really. They're biologically attuned to what they need to eat. They have behaviors for hunting and gathering what they need specific for their diet. It's really complex, and it's actually fascinating. And that was a quick and simple version. Going on to round 2, roosting behavior. What is the roosting behavior, and why do they do it, ma'am? This is chickens, right? We're talking about chickens now?
Yeah. And
it applies to other fowl, but what is a roosting behavior?
Roosting behavior is usually up off the ground, and on a
roost.
On some sort of roost up off the ground, and they instinctively know to get up off the ground away from danger. So sometimes people don't always have their chickens put away at night in safety, and they'll be loose and they'll go up on something that they can find. They know they shouldn't be on the ground.
Why is this? This is because back in the good old days before we raised chickens domestically, they lived all out in forests, and they were ground dwellers, and at night they don't like getting eaten up, so they go up in a tree and they roost on a stick there for the nighttime and not get gobbled up.
And they really can't see much at all in the darkness, so they'll do this before it gets dark.
They have great day vision.
Yes, they have very good eyesight.
But they're not good at night.
Yeah. So they'll, inside the coop, a lot of breeds, not all of them, there are some that will sleep on the floor, but most of them do like to go up.
Physiology time. This is important for chicken physiology. When you're putting in your roost stick, do not use a dowel, remember?
Yeah, that's a rounded
dowel or a round stick where the bird's going to be gripping like a cup, like a Tweety bird? No, chicken feet don't like that. They like a flat roost, like a 2x4 or something like that, where they can just kind of put their feet flat on there. Because their feet, if they're curling like that, what's it going to do? It's going to form, cause deformation and musculature.
So their feet are naturally flat. They walk around flat. They don't have feet like Tweety birds. So when they're standing flat, roosting or sleeping, then they're going to be comfortable in a natural state. If they have to curl their feet around something round and sleep that way for hours, then it's going to distort their form, and it can cause discomfort in their body while they're sleeping. This can overall affect their health.
Yeah, sleep is very important even for the chickens. So if they're not sleeping properly, just like when we don't sleep properly, it introduces the potential to, a little bit of a suppressed immune system, stress, things like this. Yeah. Even something simple like that, because they're balancing on that dowel, right? Whereas they have a firmer.
Their body's like hunched in a more uncomfortable way than if they're just flat.
So if you're dropping in recently, the roosting behavior, so we're talking about roosting behavior, it's unwise to put a rounded stick for a chicken to grasp as a roost in their coop at night.
For sleeping.
Because it's not natural for their feet. They like something a little wider where their feet don't have to curl down and grip all night. They should be flat.
Yeah.
Their feet are not the same as a like a songbird, right? So, and that's an important thing. And they do that. That's their defense mechanism at night. They roost to avoid getting swallowed by foxes. Hopefully you have a good predator-proofed facility, and that shouldn't be a concern anyway. All right. Dust bathing. Talking about number 3 under common chicken behaviors and their meanings. Dust bathing. Chickens rolling around in the dirt. What's going on here? We see this often. Is this normal? And
this is very normal. It's enjoyable. It's an enjoyable thing for them to do. But what's happening is they're going to find a dry dirt, dry sand, dry bedding area, and they'll kind of make a divot in there. They'll put their body in there, and they'll start kicking it up around underneath their feathers and really thoroughly get it up in their feathers. That's going to help them with external parasites, mites, lice, that
cooling
sort of thing,
off,
cooling their skin.
You see them doing a lot in the summer.
Yeah, that's true. It helps tend to their feathers as well. Any loose or old feathers that are just clinging on, that's a good opportunity to help them move off.
Now, with any of these behaviors, if you watch your animals, like, you ever remember Jane Goodall with the chimps? She had to hang out with them forever before they became friends. Same thing kind of with the chickens. Introduce yourself, watch them, be around them all the time. They get acclimated to you. And I bet you can tell, I can't tell, but I bet Angela, can you tell the difference between the different kind of clucky noises they make when they're doing, if they're in the dust or if they're eating or...
Yes, they do. Yeah, they communicate. They have all kinds of noises.
So, can you imitate all the different sounds?
No.
So she speaks chicken. So if you spend...
I intentionally don't do that.
If you spend time around your birds, because most of you guys have like smaller collections of birds, you don't have thousands of things running around. If you spend time with them, you'll begin to learn their different vocalizations they make with their different behaviors. They have specific vocalizations for specific behaviors that they kind of mill around and do, right?
Yeah. Did you want to talk about a few vocalization sounds, or
do you want me to make chicken noises?
No. Is that where we are in the...
No.
Okay.
I'm just saying that to bear in mind with these behaviors. All right, moving on. So we talked about feeding behaviors, roosting behaviors, dust bathing behaviors. Now,
and also along with dust bathing, in a way, they like to sunbathe, and really what that is they'll find a nice sunny spot, and they'll lay down on their side, they'll stretch their wing out, they'll probably stretch their leg out, and they'll just sit there in the sun. Yes. Some people get confused and think maybe they're hurt or something, but they're just sitting there soaking up the sun, the vitamin D.
They're doing what we do. So vitamin D is synthesized by the chicken as well, just like with the humans. It's the only vitamin that we synthesize. And the chicken synthesizes vitamin D via sunlight too. You're like, what? What are you talking about? They're covered in feathers. They got like natural sunscreen. No. There are patches on chicken where sunlight gets down in between the lighter feather areas where their skin's absorbing sunlight, and they produce the vitamin D. And that's important, that vitamin D is good for a lot of things, transport of, calcium, but also immune system in their overall health.
Yeah.
So that's why they go out into the sun. Remember, nutritional wisdom, I guess would be sun wisdom too. The animal knows what it needs to ensure its own health instinctively. All right, cool. So now we're moving on to social and hierarchy behaviors, or the pecking order.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a video about that, I think.
Probably.
I think we did
We talked about
introducing new chickens. It's one of our regular videos, not live video. Talks about the hierarchy. We'll go over it briefly. So there's the pecking order and the hierarchy of chickens, and what is going on here, and why do they do that? And I'm going to ask other questions.
So in any group of animal, whether it be dogs, a pack of dogs, a herd, you know, of
Hippopotamuses,
whatever, horses, a flock of birds, or what's a group of people? A crowd? A group of people.
Group,
yeah, it wouldn't really be a
peer
crowd.
group.
So there is going to be some sort of order to the relationships, because without that, then that creates friction with the personalities and the eating of food and everything like that. So the purpose of a pecking order, it creates order, it creates
Breeding.
Yeah, that's true. It's
So there's going to be there's dominance. So one of
Yeah.
the chickens is showing dominance, like, yo, I rule the place, and I guess they get first choice of a lot of stuff.
They do. The roosters
Just like
tend to favor
you've seen,
them.
like the Africa videos, and there we see the lions about to feed, and the masters, the leaders of the pride, are the first to eat, right?
Yeah, or the wolves, the alpha will eat
the
the
leaders.
face of the animals because of the nutrition. And anyway, so with the birds, back to chickens. Yeah, so there's going to be it's pretty like you know, it's not, there's not multiple in the top, you know. So there's going to be ones that are more dominant. They're going to be maintaining their position, where their position is, and they might change from day to day, week to week, depending on how dominant their personality is. If they're pretty mellow, then one will be the top, and then will probably stay the top for a good while, and then the other ones will be content underneath.
Yeah.
But usually the younger the bird, the lower they are, and they just don't want to be bothered with the other bird. They don't want attention.
So this is important for you new chicken people, because you might think your chickens are fighting and they have a problem living together. Like you see them doing their going crazy with each other. There may just be reasserting the pecking order. Is this not correct?
Yes, you might, if you have an existing flock and occasionally, like everybody seems to get along, and then occasionally you see two of them going at it, it's likely that somebody's not happy with where they are in the hierarchy, and they're challenging the more dominant one and want to change it.
And chicken parlance, they're asking for like a raise.
No,
they want to be boss.
They're not asking. They're forcing. They're trying to force it. But it is normal for them to have some sort of interaction that has tension when establishing the hierarchy or position wherever they are. And usually common behaviors in a flock where there's not any personalities that are like really too dominant. If they're more mellow, they'll usually do the stare down. So like two hens will stare at each other, and whoever looks away submits. And if that's all that happens, then this one is the top dog, then that's it. But if she's not going to submit, then it's going to escalate. They might puff their chests out and pump each other and jump at each other without pecking, to see if somebody backs down. If somebody doesn't, then they might lock their beaks with, grab feathers, and it might look a bit
vicious.
Yeah.
Now, they should bear in mind, if this is happening all the time, you may have an aggressive rooster who just is not good for the whole flock.
Why do you say rooster?
Well, if it's a rooster, were you talking about roosters?
No, I'm talking about hens.
Oh, you were talking about
This is typical for hens.
I was saying you could have an aggressive bird.
Yeah, so if there
bird
is an aggressive bird, or one that just is potentially going to cause issues within the flock if when they do this kind of squabbling,
Chicken
usually it
battle?
doesn't take very long for them to like one of them finally submits and then runs off, and the victor might chase a couple seconds to just kind of put their point in there. But if the one that won the altercation doesn't stop, it keeps running after the birds and keeps pecking and just bullying, harassing. It doesn't just relax. That's not balanced behavior. They should, one who wins typically will be like, okay, I'm talking about the herd, and everyone's good.
Oh, I'm on the same road.
No. And roosters, they insinuate, very rooster, they will And when we started, we heard the sound. Turn your volume up on your thing there. Does it?
Let me get them.
Okay. You sound good then, Angela. I'm confused. Can you hear me?
Yeah, that sucks.
When we started it, you turned the volume down because we could hear it.
Yeah, I know.
Yes, you fixed it. Okay.
You know, I'm really sorry. We did these last week, and I used a mic, and it was not working because I didn't plug it in properly. This week I said I'm not risking that. I just won't use a mic, and apparently that got screwed up too.
I don't know what
Terrible,
happened.
because we've been doing a very good chicken behaviors class. Can you hear us? No? Yes? I don't know.
I think so.
Hopefully. Yepers. Okay, thanks a lot. Yeah, I'm sorry anybody watching this. I was like wondering why people come in and dip out. It's because of that microphone. Thank you very much, Verna. Like, I'm just going to use this microphone from now on that I just plugged in and make sure it stays plugged in. Never had that happen before off the phone.
Yeah,
All right. So I'm going to recap, even if you didn't hear this. Yeah, that's probably why. I don't know why that is. I think it's the app, actually, because it happened last week and it shouldn't have. Anyway, that's solved. So we were discussing common chicken behaviors. I'm going to go over really quick what we talked about. I'm not going to go over all the details because, you know what, I'm just going to do this as a regular video in the future.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
There's so much practice I could teach this at university now. So we talked about feeding and foraging behaviors or natural instinctive behaviors. Which, by the way, Verna, something really interesting, which I like sciencey stuff. So the chickens and the animal kingdom, basically, they have this thing called nutritional wisdom, which is, maybe you know this, I'm sure you probably know what I'm talking about, but anybody else, where the animals know what to eat to get the nutrients that they need. Why not set up a chicken university? You know, she's absolutely right. People do need, because they get a lot of new chicken owners.
Yeah, it's true.
But the birds, they know instinctively what to eat to gain the nutrients they need to provide their body for the optimal nutrition. So when you see them hunting and pecking, they know what they're doing through experience and through their instincts. It's really fascinating. And they do the same thing when they're sick. They'll look for things to treat their own illnesses. And a lot of us see this in other animals. You may see it in a dog licking some kind of mineral resource when they're low on a certain mineral or salt, electrolyte. So it's interesting. So we talked about foraging and feeding, roosting behaviors, dust bathing, social hierarchy, the mating and the mating dance of the rooster. What else? Oh, we haven't talked about this yet. So I'll continue from here. And sorry, people, if we had not good audio at the beginning.
Yeah.
But we're going to be talking about aggressive behaviors and why they have the aggressive behaviors. I'll talk a little bit about this because you've been talking a lot about stuff.
Yeah.
So, as we discussed, you may notice some aggressive behavior in the hierarchy where they're establishing a pecking order. This is normal, and it's not to cause injury, it's just to assert. Right? Now, you can have aggressive behaviors manifest in your flock due to several conditions. One, we talked about in, I think, the same video with no sound last week, is overcrowding in the coop, right? When they get stressed out. These are stressors. The animals naturally, in a natural environment, they're not smushed up with all these chickens, and they're hot. Their bodies run warm. So you got all these warm chickens squished together, panting, getting dehydrated in an overcrowded coop, which also is going to probably be getting soiled easily.
But then also, they do build relationships. Some of them have good friends among the flock, and some of them are not good friends, but they tolerate each other. And when they don't have enough space to get away from each other, then that can cause squabbling, that's not, unnecessarily so.
Yeah. Yes. So it's not, like you're saying, it's not necessarily going to, every time you have chickens squished together, they're going to have aggression. But it's definitely not optimal for them because it gets soiled quickly, and that produces a lot of moisture, bacteria, etc. So you never want to have the coop overcrowded. That's more of a coop issue.
Yeah.
Pecking, chase, and territorial displays. One of the aggressive things I was talking about earlier is bad rooster genetics, where you have just a nasty bird.
Yeah. Roosters tend to more so have issues with humans. Um, and occasionally you might have a rooster. It's I don't think it's as common. I think it's not too
No,
common,
it's
but you
not
might have
common.
a rooster who does just decides he doesn't like a few hens and favors the other ones, um, and he just doesn't treat them very well, and that's just I don't tolerate bad temperament at all, especially if it's the rooster. He's supposed to be
Yeah.
protecting them all,
Yeah,
but
and if it is a predisposition to bad temperament, you don't want to breed that.
no,
You don't want to have a bad, like,
but
my daddy was mean, my granddaddy was mean, and now I'm mean.
it does cause stress and tension within the flock when
Yeah,
there and
and
that
everybody's
is
like that.
yeah when there's a bad character, even if it's a hen, it really does cause tension. It's harder for them to relax and just be happy.
Yeah, so a lot of the stuff that applies to the humans can kind of apply to the chickens. Now, I understand their physiology is very different. They have different biology, different nutritional needs, and everything. But one of the things that none of these animals, like mammalian or bird, are stress environments, okay, where the body's being taxed. You don't like chronic stress is damaging to any creature. Intermittent stress, not so bad. Chronic stress, not good. So when you have a chronic stress situation, it's not good. Like you can have a predator come around. That's an intermittent stressor. It's not something that's chronically there. The birds are going to freak out. They're going to be chattering. They may not lay eggs if it's been a persistent thing for a couple of days, but it's not there all the time. You're going to have a stress response. But chronic stress is where you're going to be inhibiting the what do you call it? Their health.
Yes, yeah, for sure. And Verna said, quail or chickens, you want to remove what was it, the undesirable
Yeah,
traits.
get rid of those with the undesirable traits.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I've seen flocks where the rooster or hen or a hen just nitpicks on a few, and then those few flock members, they just can't relax. They just have to be constantly on their guard, and that's not good. You want them to be happy, healthy, and friendly.
Happy, healthy, and friendly. Yes, indeed. All right, now we're moving on to section 3. So we talked about behaviors. We're going to briefly talk about chicken sounds. I'm not going. Do you want to make chicken sounds? She doesn't want to make chicken sounds. I'll make some chicken sounds.
And talk about it.
So regular old clucking, like some say they're going to be milling about in their area. So why are they vocalizing? Are they communicating to each other when they're just casually clucking around looking for food? What's going on?
Yeah, they'll make, just as you said, they'll make some casual clucks.
My question was the answer.
Quieter. Yeah, it'll be quieter clucks as they're looking around at things.
They're communicating, like saying, I'm here. I'm eating over here. They're staying within earshot.
If they find something yummy, if the rooster particularly finds something that's good, he'll make a particular clucking sound to encourage that, calls the hens over, and then if he's a good rooster, he'll drop the food for her to eat it. I've definitely seen roosters call them over and then eat it himself. So he usually drops it, and it's a part of the wooing relationship thing for them. Yeah.
All right. Now, everybody's favorite are the roosters. So if you live in a community and you have roosters, then you have a neighbor somewhere going, oh. So the roosters crow. Why is the rooster crowing? So the rooster crowing, I guess, in the morning. He's waking up.
It's typical for him to do it in the morning after they come out of the coop, after he does his running around, or before.
Right. They're asserting their territory. They're asserting their dominance in the area, and we know this. Why? Because if we live in a neighborhood with other roosters and your rooster goes off, the goofy chicken down the street is going off in response, and they go back and forth for a while to make sure they understand this is my turf. So they're cockadoodle-doodling to let everybody know where they lie and that that's their area.
Ever have a rooster that crows about 2 or 3 a.m.?
I think we've had them do that before.
Yeah, because
I've heard them in the summer
lights.
at that time.
If I have like a light on or something, But yeah, if they get a light on them, so even if you have like a spotlight and it hits their coop, they might get confused and crow.
Yeah.
But they will do it more than once a day, though. Usually they'll do it in the morning and then like in the afternoon. Now, some roosters are a little overzealous and they just keep going. Or full moon. I felt no, I haven't seen that.
Maybe, I don't know.
But
We had full moon rooster noises.
no, I don't think that enough of the light made it into the coop for
You
them
were
to
like
see
in a
it.
valley and we're covered up.
That's true. It's very true. But yeah.
Okay, cool. So crowing. Oh, and they're a warning system too.
Mhm.
Their squawking or their alarm call. The hens do it, and the roosters will do an alarm for predatory animals.
Yeah, so it's very similar to when the hens do their egg song. She'll make a big ruckus singing and singing either before she lays the egg, because I'll be like, where's your egg? You haven't laid your egg yet. Why are you singing? Or right after she lays the egg, she'll do the song. The difference is it will have a high pitch part to the sound. It's like the babak sound that you normally hear, but it's like high.
Yeah, so this is important for you guys. If you're new with chickens, you don't want to come out to a bunch of feathers in a pile. So if you hear what sounds like an unusual egg song, you may want to just say, oh, they're just laying eggs.
It's always good to check.
But, there is a difference. And until you see the predator action and you hear the birds, you can tell the difference. You'll begin to notice it. So whenever she hears that goofy chicken alarm call, I have to go looking for hawks.
Yeah, so
they're usually alarmed by hawks.
Usually what
Better
happens...
safe than sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially now. You're not getting any new chickens. They're hard to come by. And everybody's looking for them, so you don't want to get eaten.
So true. So usually what happens, depending on the relationships within the flock, if they're like really good relationships, with our silkies, for example, if a hen lays an egg, the other ones want to congratulate her too, even the rooster. So you'll hear the one start singing, and then you'll hear like 5 or 6 join in to sing with her, and then the rooster will start singing with her to be like, good job, you did such a good job. And it could get a little, it sounds like they're all laughing. Now when the predator, mostly it's like a hawk.
For us, it's mostly a hawk.
For us.
You guys might have foxes, raccoons.
You might have a few that start doing this
Hawks
loud alarm sound. Or it might be a lot of them. Depends how big your flock is. It might be a lot of them making the sound. But what they'll do is somebody will make the alarm sound, and then it'll tell them to run for cover. And they'll be looking for cover. But then they'll still be making a lot of sound even under the cover. It's not like you think not to do that to draw attention. But they will keep doing that to keep the alarm going. And sometimes they'll run into a coop if they're able. But also, if there's not really a predator, but a concern, and you have a rooster, typically it's the rooster. If something unusual happens, maybe like a butterfly flits into the area, or you drop something near them, he'll make like a growly sound.
The rooster?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like a drawn out growl, and then the hens will stop what they're doing and they'll look. And they'll be like, that's just a butterfly. And then they'll keep doing their thing. But his duty is to keep them safe. So he's going to let them know if anything unusual happens. Then they can also check it out and then decide if they want to flee. But they'll also freeze to try and not draw attention to themselves as well.
Tyrannosaurus Rex works by
sight.
Yeah, so they... Yeah, you'll definitely know when they're under attack. The alarms go off, and they'll let each other know.
A lot of the bigger breeds, they'll look up. They'll be looking up at wherever, if it's a predator in the sky. So then that tells you there's a hawk.
Yeah. Very good. All right, last noise I want to talk about is their illness sounds. So you may hear their breath or wheezy.
Yeah,
with
that's
respiratory
true.
issue.
Respiratory, yeah. They could be sneezing.
A lethargic kind of, their cluck. Their cluck is subdued, their cooing noise.
Well, with respiratory, you could hear a sneezing. You could hear like a labored like a when they exhale, it's almost like a woo sound. They'll breathe in and like woo, and it's like there's a problem with the respiratory, and sometimes they don't really make any sound because they're lethargic and they wheeze.
Wheezing,
Yeah. There are different sounds with illness, but yeah, sometimes they don't express with sound pain. A lot of animals are like that. But yeah, so it's important to know what they look like when they're happy and healthy, and keep an eye out to look at them daily, because things can happen quickly. Because like I just said, they don't always show. Oh hey, Taco. They don't always show that something is wrong right away, and then as the days progress, then it could be getting much worse. It could get worse quickly, and then.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
They don't want to advertise their weakness.
Yeah,
right,
that does make them more
predatory prone.
Yeah.
Right. Good point. That's an excellent point, actually.
Yes.
What the hell was I kind of saying? Now I got sidetracked. I was going to say something about illness. We have other videos that go into like recognizing illnesses, what causes illnesses in the birds, treatments for those illnesses, etc. So do go investigate that if you want to hear us yap about that. I think we have a live video. Actually, I know I did a live video about common chicken illnesses about a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a little professor-looking cartoon guy.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
On the camera. And I think we have a brief one in the regular video section. But yeah, the illnesses, again, like the rule with the illnesses and injuries is keep your coop clean, keep the area managed,
Mm-hmm.
Don't let debris and all that build up. Cleanliness and predator proofness. And you're going to avoid most issues.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, right now, I know like what's going on with the highly pathogenic avian influenza, where they're whacking all them birds going in. So, yeah, that's an issue for these huge consortiums, these huge buildings, where one outbreak or one illness, they're calling everybody.
Yeah, they're all together.
You want to manage your own flock. I'm not going to talk about that disease in particular, but managing your own flock, keep it clean. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
keep the dust low.
Yeah, keep the predator proofing up. And the cleanliness thing is the big issue.
Yeah.
Because what's happening with a lot of illnesses, sometimes it's transient bacteria from another location being brought in. Well, it has to be transient bacteria coming in. Buster. Oh, hi, Buster. Hello, thank you for coming in. I think that's a new name I've not recognized before. Welcome here.
Verna put in a comment. I didn't get to see it before.
Make sure there's ventilation in the coop.
Yep.
Yeah, man,
Yeah,
absolutely,
ventilation is
100%.
so important.
And we talk about that quite a bit, that whole ventilation issue. People, I think what happens when people are building a coop, because the winter time comes, they get a little scared of the coop getting too cold. So they just put little holes here and there to be ventilation.
Or they just don't understand or realize how it becomes a stagnant box.
It really does, especially with the overcrowding.
Yeah.
So the animals respirate a lot. They breathe a lot, and I mentioned this before in a couple of videos before. So to understand why that's a danger in a crowded coop, they're breathing. Think about when the winter comes and you exhale and you see that condensation, right? That's the water vapor coming out of you. And the chickens have water vapor too. Mm-hmm. We don't see it now because it's warm out in the summer, but there's always, like when you talk a lot like this, you dry out because all that water's coming out. And the same with the chickens. So when they're in an enclosed area without ventilation to disperse that moisture settles in that cage.
Mm-hmm. And then that gives them potential for respiratory illness. But also, if the coop is getting too hot, sometimes coop placement or location where people live can make the coops really hot. So proper ventilation is going to get the right amount of airflow going through. And
I remember in the summertime it was super hot. It has 100 and something degrees.
Yeah. You
had to mitigate the heat, draping white fabric over top of the roof to reflect the radiation, the sunlight, to keep them cool. So yeah, these things are important. Yeah. But that's getting off of simple sounds they make.
Yeah, that's right. Keep care.
When they're sick, they will let you know in a variety of ways. going back to the beginning of this whole talk, why we want to watch our animals and see their baseline behaviors, their normal behaviors, is because we'll definitely be able to pick up on illness behaviors before the illness becomes pronounced and perhaps untreatable. That's really bad when you open up a chicken coop and see a stiff chicken.
Yes.
Which could have been prevented. And a lot of that, they don't tell you, hey, I'm calling out today. They start to communicate their illness and their behaviors.
And even
And stool and
manure.
all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Should I go into the human interactions on the impact? Well, I think I'll talk about that briefly. So another section of my outline that we discussed last week. I'm going to go over this again. Human interaction and the impact on their behavior. And we talked about this before. So the animals, like any other creature, is going to acclimate to you, or it's going to be stressed out by your presence if they're not. Correct?
Yeah, so you want to make sure your interaction with them is positive in some way, not a stressor, or at least consistently.
Yeah, routine is good. Because
Yeah.
if you're coming at
They
different...
want to associate you with good, as
Food.
opposed to
Food
an
and
example of an association that's bad is every time they see you or a human, they're going to expect to be chased down and caught roughly and like scared, that kind of thing, or taunted. Some people are just not nice
Not
people.
nice people.
So they'll get used to your voice, and they'll learn, oh, your voice is a good thing. They'll come to you when they hear you before they see you.
Yeah, you want a peaceful chicken patch.
Yeah, they can be very happy pets.
So yeah, interact, socialize, talk to them. They get to know your voice. And this lady over here, I think she's wacky because she recognizes chicken voices. Can you tell they're different voices? Yeah, so she works very much with her silkies. So she knows their voices and they know her voice. Me, I'm more like, I have a pig. So I spend time with my pig. I like the chickens, but my pet chicken's no good. Anyway, moving on. So yeah, you definitely want to socialize, interact with your pets. I mean, your pets that lay eggs, even if you don't consider them pets, they're still part of the facility that you live at.
And if you want to have a relationship with your chicken where you want to be able to hold your chicken or have it sit on your lap, make sure that whole process of training them this is positive in the sense that you don't scare them when you're grabbing them, coax them with treats, bring treats and drop the treats near your feet so then they get used to being around your feet, or eating out of your hand, and then calmly pick the chicken up.
Incremental.
And learn how to hold the chicken so that you're not squeezing them and making them uncomfortable and hard for them to breathe. Also, don't flip them up on their back and hold them like a baby. People think, oh, it's so cute, it's just sitting there, and oh, look, it's falling asleep. They have a hard time breathing. It's very difficult for them to breathe if they're on their back.
They have I'm going to do a video on this because they have a very complex and very different respiratory system, and they lack the diaphragm. They can't hold that weight of their own chest up.
Sorry, I don't understand.
Oh, it's
also easier to start off young.
Yeah, so sorry, our other Apple thing is interacting. But
I
yeah,
hate technology.
So when you interact with them, make sure it's positive, gentle, and then they'll enjoy being held. They'll enjoy sitting on your lap because they do like that time with you. They aren't solitary animals, and you talking like that. They talk to each other all the time. They groom each other, so they're very relatable.
Yeah, if you have a new animal, be patient with the creature because, especially human AI is a pain too. Yeah. Yeah, but if you get a new chicken and you introduce to the flock, that one's going to be different personality, doesn't know you, so you're going to have to take time to acclimate, because that animal's under a lot of stress. It's a new environment, new chickens, new master, doesn't know what's going on, so it'll take a little while. So you have to be patient, and I think intuitively people might expect, oh, he's good with the flock, so she's going to be good with me now, and that may not be the case, because she's not used to the human.
Yeah.
So just be gentle with your new chicken and don't be offended. They're chickens. They don't have the same cognitive, functions. So they take a little longer sometimes if it's a new animal. All right, moving on. And we're going to close up with some of these things, I think. Environmental factors influencing chicken behavior. I'm going to go over these. Let me go over these quickly because they're really pretty simple. The one we always talk about, predator issues, predatory problems. What Verna said. Often sitting down and pouring a bit of feed at your feet can help.
Yeah, that's a good
Oh,
idea.
yeah. Well, think about, like, remember in the park? All the pigeons and the
Oh
birds?
yeah, the pigeons.
They're wild birds and they come routinely.
Yeah.
And I've seen people train them.
Yep, they're very
So,
food
influenced,
focused.
yeah.
Yeah.
So environmental factors that influence chicken behavior, the predator thing we talk about a ton. So predator threat responses. And obviously they're going to be going berserk if there's a predator in their area. Okay, that doesn't take a genius to figure out. But what happens is, like I was stating earlier, if you have a chronic stressor, like a routine predator coming around at night, right? Possums, foxes, raccoons.
And again, your chickens can't see at night, so they're just sitting
Scared.
there.
It's
There's
like a
really
horror
nothing they can
movie in
do.
real life for these chickens.
Yeah.
They're hearing scratching on the doors, or the animals are in there banging around. They're going to be freaked out, and you may notice that in the morning, and you may notice that in their behavior, and you may notice that in their feeding, and that's going to transfer into stress. Stress, always bad. Stress, chronic stress. Chronic stress bad because it can induce, again, that weakened immune system, and then you can introduce pathogens. So chickens are pretty hardy, and they're used to the organisms in the soil that they're pecking around in. Eating all those parasites and bacteria, they are immune to it, to their local fauna. The soil is alive. Soil is a living organism. Just think of it that way. So we don't think of it like that, but it's a living organism filled to the brim with living little critters, and we acclimate to it. So do the chickens, but they're eating it, so they get used to it. However, when their immune system is suppressed, they may ingest a pathogenic load that overwhelms that immune system that normally would keep them fine, and all of a sudden they start developing illness, and then it can take over because that immune system might be suppressed from the stressors, from the chronic predatory incursions that need to be addressed. So yeah, predator threats can cause a problem. Keep your area clean of food scraps. I think that's the main issue is the food scraps. And then monitor at the change of season. So spring season and winter season. Spring season, mama animals are looking for food for baby animals, and winter seasons, baby animals don't want to starve to death, so they're looking for food. And the patterns change, and they're looking in different hunting areas.
Yeah, and food might be not as easy to come by unless they see some chickens sitting around.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, again, with the food, it's good not to have food left out to discourage rodents. You don't want to have rodents moving in. How long would you quarantine a chicken that you got from another source?
Yeah, it's recommended a minimum of 2 weeks.
Yeah, minimum 2 weeks. They do say 40 days, so it's up to you. And I think a big part of it too is the type of quarantine area you have for them.
Yeah.
If you can provide a quiet, clean space for them that's not like overly bright, just low stimulation, and preferably not near your birds. You want to have them separated, and then you can monitor them for that. The first week they're going to start distressing from the transition itself, and you want to keep them calm and low stress to prevent because their immune system can get suppressed, so you want to keep them healthy. And then they're going to start getting used to you. So this is a whole process.
The bird is not only a potential infection agent. Like I go buy a chicken from Joe. Joe's chicken's sick. I don't realize it. The chicken can also become sick from the new environment simply because it's not acclimated to that little micro environment that the other chickens are fine in. So it may take a little time to introduce them there.
Or just the stress itself.
And, coupled with the stress, yeah.
Just like us people, when you go traveling, some people get sick or catch a cold because they were traveling. It was just because their suppressed immune system.
Yeah. So that's some interesting stuff. What we talk about? Predators. That was all predator talk, wasn't it? Okay, cool. Other things, environmental factors for chicken behaviors that are going to affect the behaviors. The light and dark cycles. Yeah, they're going to become more active with the light. And again, like she was saying, they do sun for the vitamin D. I think our big issue, our main thing we hear with people with the light issue is the egg production and the lack of sunlight because of natural hormonal changes with the sunlight going down.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to have eggs throughout winter, supplement the light, add the lights into the coop on a timer so they're not seeing less than 16 hours a day
Mm-hmm.
of light. So add some light at the beginning of the day, end of the day in the coop, and the eggs persist.
Mm-hmm.
Do their behaviors change as far as like their baseline outdoor behaviors? I mean, not really from the light.
No, no. I mean,
They're
no,
not,
they still do
like,
their
they're still-
normal behaviors.
They're not. I mean, they're not developing a new behavior because it's getting dark at 5 o'clock.
No.
They just might go in their coop earlier because it's dark.
Yep.
Yeah. Blah blah blah. Temperature and climate. So, temperature and climate. I will answer a question. Do I need to add heat in my coop in the winter? We're coming out of winter, but that's a common question. Should I add heat in the coop in the winter? No, it's not advisable to add heat in the coop at winter time. We humans intuitively want to do it because we're mammals. We don't have feathers, and it makes sense that we get cold. But they have these nice, unbelievably designed, exquisite down covers that keep them warm.
Mm-hmm.
And just like us, so like we wear clothes, the chickens wear feathers. And what happens is the clothes don't keep us warm. The clothes trap the heat that we were producing. So it's this heat in here is not from the clothes, obviously. The clothes are as cold as the room. It's from my body. Same with the feathers. So the feathers are trapping heat. They're very well designed. So do they need a heat source? You shouldn't do that because they're going to produce their own heat. They're going to stay warm. They're going to huddle together if it's cold. You want to have a windbreak. You don't want to be drafty inside the coop. But the other issue with adding heat is now you're having a high temperature indoors and they're going outdoors and it's a shock.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not acclimated to that outdoor temperature. They're coming from the heat. It's nice and warm in here. It's like 50, 60 degrees. Now I'm going outside where it's 30.
Yeah, that could definitely cause immune issues.
And people get very
Respiratory
upset by this.
issues.
I watch the internet battles. Ugh.
Yeah, they do.
They're like, man, I'm like, look, it's like, whatever. I could care less if this is true or not. I just want to know what the facts are, and this is just the facts. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, just add, you can add extra bedding, along the edges of the coop just to kind of like insulate it a little better. Or you can add a windbreak areas outside of the coop so they can get out of the wind. Or if you have harsh winds that go through any kind of, crevices in the coop, you can add a lining of plastic. Just as long as there's still proper ventilation. But yeah, they handle the cold just fine.
And for the heat, like we said earlier, they breathe. They love breathing. These are little breathers, and they're already pretty warm. So they're going to be guzzling tons of water. They're going to be seeking shade. They're going to be seeking cooling off, like if it's really hot. Summer's warm, but on those super hot days, their behavior is going to change. They're going to be a little slower. They're going to seek shade. They're going to be drinking more. Make sure you keep your water out there. Is their behavior going to change? Well, yeah. I mean, they're a little...
Yeah, they're not going to be real active in the heat of the day, like Christopher just said.
Conserving themselves.
Yeah, they'll be in the shade.
They're trying to stay cool.
If it's if there's good ventilation, movement of air, and they have shade, they may pant as a way to help reduce heat in the body. They might even hold their wings up to help the air flow underneath their wings to help cool their bodies.
Dust baths.
Yeah, and like Christopher said, they're going to be drinking more water. They'll be eating less food when it's super hot. Cold weather, though, they will be eating more food. You're going to want to increase their food just to help them with regulating the body, the energy use in keeping their body temperature stable.
Yeah, this is a lot of information, you guys. So if you're really like into birds, your chicken care, I mean, there's so much stuff you can learn. They do have university level PhD programs for poultry care because it's very complex science if you really want to dive into it. And I find that kind of interesting. But even this simple stuff, which sounds simple, like I'm like, hey, let's do a introduction to chicken behavior. What do? They walk around and cluck, right? Sounds simple, but it gets more and more complex the deeper you want to dig into any of these subjects. That's what's cool about homesteading, you guys, or doing your little farms or whatever you're doing. You think you're learning something simple, but there's more and more, and it should be like inspiring interest. Like you should be interested. Like, oh wow, cool! I didn't know you could do that with these plants and these flowers grow well together. It's like the new information should be inspiring, not overwhelming and taxing on us. It's supposed to make us happy. This is a lifestyle enhancing activity, which is laborious, but lifestyle
But
enhancing
rewarding.
nevertheless. Yes, rewarding. So, the last environmental factor I would like to mention, which we discussed before, but it always is good to mention, is the quality and space in your coop, in the housing structure. Like you don't want a huge place where there's far too much room, but you don't want it squished in there.
Well,
They're matched
if there's
together.
too much room with chickens, it doesn't really. They won't have behavioral issues. It's
Like
not.
quail do.
Yeah, quail can get a little finicky if they have too much space. Sometimes you might get territorial behavior, like claiming areas. Um, yeah, but the chickens, they don't really do that. Some people like to have a really big, spacious, coop where they can walk in, and that's really nice. But if it's too small, then that's an issue. Like we discussed earlier, you want it to be proper size so everybody has space enough for themselves, and also that it stays clean.
Yeah, I think the main issue with the overcrowding, even if they're not stressing out, is you don't want to be cleaning a coop every other day or every day.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be something that's I gotta get up like every day cleaning a coop, and that's just because there's too many chickens in it, or it's too small for the amount of chickens. Because you could address it with deep litter, right, inside the coops, or
Yeah, I mean that could help. That's one of the methods.
We use a clean out board under the
dropping board
under the roosting sticks. So I just clean that off, and I'm like, okay, cool, cleaned, done. Takes less than 2 minutes to clean out the whole thing.
Yeah, and then there's bedding on the floor, but.
And then I guess it's due for a whole clean out soon again anyway. We do a whole big clean out, spray it out, and treat it with what do you call it?
Electro
PSP. We'll spray it down.
It's good to do that once or twice a year.
In case there's any little critters that are starting to grow in there. It's usually been fine. Okay, cool. So I think that will just about do it. I want to conclude with some things. So the key points of this whole video, why we were discussing the chicken behaviors. These are your animals. You're spending time. You're investing a lot of time, money, and emotion. A lot of people are very emotionally invested into your creatures. You don't want them getting sick. You don't want them getting eaten up by foxes. And you want to understand them. So when you go out, you know what's going on. It's kind of weird. You're very attuned to your chickens. You know what they're doing. She speaks chicken. It's not really weird. It's just interesting. So you really want to know your animals. And if you spend time with them, you begin to see these behaviors. And like I said, they all have like a standard set of baseline behaviors, like expected normal behaviors. And when those are off, something might be up, and that's an indicator. So if you understand their normal behaviors, the unusual behaviors are going to stick out. And they're usually red flag indicators of an issue, injury, illness, etc.
And it's very important to understand their basic needs. And that also there's some people who really enjoy chickens as pets, and to the point where they really like holding them a lot and just interacting with them a lot, which is fine as long as there is a balance and they're able to be a chicken. Like go and spend time with their friends and peck and scratch and sunbathe and dust bath, like do those normal chicken behaviors that make them happy. Sometimes people, because we're used to cats and dogs, inside our homes, sometimes people want to have one or two chickens as a pet indoors with a diaper, which is fine. And that's enjoyable if that's what you want to do. But again, make sure the chicken can be a chicken, so then it's happy and balanced.
Yes. Yeah, they have chicken behaviors, not puppies. They're not cats, they're chickens. And I mean, they're nice little animals, but they definitely have different mechanisms than their mammal counterpart pets. Right?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think that'll close that up. I'm very sorry about this microphone issue. You know what? From now on, I'm going to use this microphone.
Yeah.
Because it works fine. But yeah, hopefully that was interesting to you guys, at least the part that you could hear.
Yes, sorry.
And if you have any ideas for future things you'd like to hear, let me know, because I like doing these education things. I have a bunch of ideas I was working on today, like outlines for videos. Finally want to do my medical kit video, and there's a whole bunch of other ones, recognizing illness, etc. information, quality stuff you can actually use. And I try, like when I do these videos, oh, no problem, Taco. Yes, and the mic you're using now, you're loud and clear. Oh,
Oh,
okay,
good.
awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like doing videos to when I like to teach, but I like people who don't want to spend time learning to be able to learn. Like make it.
You mean invest the time invested to find the
Well,
information?
nobody wants to spend 6 hours listening to stuff. They just want to know bam, bam, bam. But if you give it to them short, you're going to lose a lot of good information. So you have to find a balance of presenting information that is usable, cognitively applicable, so they can understand it and have context to it, and then apply it in real world, as opposed to just saying, "Hey, A causes B." That's not going to be useful. So it's challenging. I like doing.
Yeah, and that super basic stuff can actually be misleading.
Yeah.
So if you guys if you're new, if you're watching this and you're new, feel free to subscribe.
You should have a Q&A time each week. Well, yeah, you know what, Verna, I try to tell everybody, just drop questions down there. But maybe we'll do an exclusive question answer video. But I always invite people. These things are open lives where it's like we'll do teach, but if you have a question, drop it in there, and I'll just address it at the same while we're talking.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to talk about that. Do maybe a format that encourages more back and forth chatting. But yeah,
I could put a sign up there.
No, but like Brenda said, once in a while.
My beloved sign is backwards because the YouTube app got updated and everybody's having a problem with their background signage.
You might want to add that to your description.
Oh, I thought I did. I don't know. I do.
Thank you for mentioning that.
Thanks, Brenda. Yeah. I'm gonna put that back in. Okay, cool. I think it's time for saying goodnight. Ooh, yes. I'm gonna have to come up with a goodbye song like from back in the 50s and 60s. They had nice closing songs, but goodbye. Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's turning into spring. It's a good time of year.
We're pretty excited.
Yeah, we got new bikes today for our trail.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to that. Have a blessed night. You too, Verna. Thank you very much. And I'll probably see you on Saturday.
Yeah.
If you're on.
He tunes in.
That's a one live show I watch. Is Vase Place. I think it is. Mm-hmm. So I don't have any time. Like Saturday, I'm cooking breakfast. So I always watch the Vase Place at 10 o'clock while I'm cooking breakfast for everybody. All right, you guys.
Yeah, so speaking of, tune into Vase Place, Vase channel. She does a live 10 o'clock on Saturdays.
Bye, Buster. If you were here earlier, sorry about the sound. Mics are working now, so we'll be back. If you have any questions, just drop them in. All right, guys.
Bye.
We'll see you. Bye.